Chapter 2. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling all night, but still couldn't figure out why I was here. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why was fate playing this joke on me? If the plot developed according to the story, I would meet the supporting actress, Lolita, when I went out for coffee the next day. Lolita would then threaten me and splash coffee in my face. I stayed awake until dawn, went out early in the morning, and waited in the cafe I had described. Near noon, I finally saw Lolita. Her facial features matched those in the book, but there were also some differences. In the book, Lolita was designed as an heiress with a pure appearance but a vicious heart, so her every move had a Lolita-like air. But the Lolita walking towards me was wearing high heels, and her steps were clumsy, like a gorilla with a sore foot. Had I changed the plot? Even if I did, the characters wouldn't be ruined like this, right? While I was thinking, Lolita walked towards me with fierce steps and sat on the sofa opposite me. She looked like she had eaten something bad, and her expression was a little strange. After waiting for a long time, Lolita neither verbally humiliated me nor threw coffee in my face in anger. That's not what I wrote. I suddenly looked at the person across from me, hesitated for a moment, and then said to her, "The sky is blue." The Lolita across from me froze for a moment, then shared the same expression as me. "The grass is green." Really? With tears in my eyes, I shouted, "Comrade," and held her hand tightly as if I had found my organization. After I finished venting, I wiped my face and started asking her why she was here. The other person explained that he was the editor and that this world was actually a book written by his author. Before going to bed at night, he was still thinking about how to revise the book and ended up inside it. I looked at him and shuddered. "You're Roman, right?" The other person also had a look of no way, but finally said, "Are you Jesse?" We exchanged glances, and it was hard to put into words. After a dead silence, I spoke weakly. "I see you're a man on IG. How come you were assigned to a female supporting role?" "How should I know?" Roman clutched his stomach, looking like he was about to pass away. "It's okay if she's a supporting actress, but why is she on her period? You even mentioned that in your revised manuscript." The editor and the author both traveling into a book at the same time. I wonder if there is any precedent for this in other novels. Roman and I ended our brief and awkward small talk and began discussing how to move forward in this book. He also agreed with my point of view. The main text of 20,000 words is about 7 chapters. If we continue to act according to the plot, we might get out. Roman took a few sips of his coffee, and a bit of color returned to his pale face. He looked up at me and said, "Only you know the latest plot changes. What happens after Lolita meets Clara Bennett?" It's just, the two of them were sitting here. Lolita threatened Clara Bennett to leave Cassian. Clara Bennett refused, and then Lolita threw coffee at her, and then... Before I could finish my words, a cup of coffee was thrown in my face. The coffee rushed into my nasal cavity, making my nose sore and painful. I used my fingertips to wipe the coffee off my eyelashes, feeling shocked and angry. "Are you crazy?" Then he spread his hands innocently and said, "It's necessary for the plot." Like me, I guess he had been wanting to do this for a long time. I sneered and stood up. "Don't you want to know the ending? Come, I'll tell you." Roman should have known what I was going to do, but his position wasn't good, and he had nowhere to hide. I picked up the porcelain plate with the dessert and smashed it against Roman's head, making it shatter. Roman covered his head without saying a word, blood oozing from between his fingers.
"All right."
I tossed the broken plate to the floor and reached out to brush my coffee-smelling hair away. "Call Cassian and tell him about this. Make it sound as bad as possible. Then Cassian will come after me." When Roman kept asking me to revise the manuscript, I wanted to beat the hell out of this picky editor. Just as the original plot was going on, Lolita was fighting with Clara Bennett, lost her balance, fell to the ground, and hit her head. It was just a matter of him slipping and falling and then being hit by me. In the end, Cassian would confront me, so there was no need to pay attention to these details. Roman looked up at me, his face dark from behind his hands. I shrugged and smiled innocently. It's necessary for the plot. That night, I received a call from Cassian. I don't know what Roman said to him, but I could tell from his tone that it was quite extreme. "You hit Mia on the head, didn't you?" Cassian lowered his voice, a hint of impending doom. "Wait for me at home." He hung up the phone without even listening to my explanation. I swallowed and looked out the floor-to-ceiling window. The villa was located on a coastal cliff. The scenery was usually beautiful, but it rained heavily tonight. Affected by the weather, the gentle coast now looked like a ferocious beast. Waves hit the cliff one after another, making a dull sound. It was pouring rain. In less than 20 minutes, a black Bentley drove up the winding mountain road. It was Cassian's car. I walked out of the bedroom and downstairs, taking a couple of swigs of wine, hoping that when Cassian confronted me, it would hurt less. The door was violently slammed open, and Cassian walked in with a murderous aura, followed by Roman, who was playing Lolita. Roman's acting was very good. Apart from his slightly cold expression, he could be described as pitiful. But I believed he had lost too much blood. Cassian was a head taller than me, and he stood in front of me like a wall, with an intimidating sense of pressure. He was damp, his thin lips pressed into a straight line, and his eyes were like murderous knives. "How did she hit you?" Cassian put his arm around Roman's waist, his voice so gentle it was almost heart-melting. I quietly raised my eyes and saw that Roman was being held by the domineering CEO around his waist. He wanted to break free quietly, but was pulled back by Cassian. Finally, he gave up struggling, and his face remained expressionless. Roman gestured towards the table beside him. "A plate. She hit me with it." Cassian said nothing, letting go of Roman and walking towards the dining table. Taking advantage of the opportunity, I mouthed to Roman, "What's wrong with you? Are you seeking revenge?" Roman raised the corner of his mouth and said silently, "It requires the plot." "I need your uncle. I'm about to be confronted. Can you please spare me some injuries?" Elsewhere, Cassian came over with a plate and shoved it into Roman's hands. "Hit her back the way she hit you." There was a glint in Roman's eyes, and without hesitation, I turned and ran. We were chasing each other around the sofa. Roman, a straight man, couldn't catch up with me even in his high heels. I thought he was almost out of reach, and was about to stop when someone suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me, followed by a slap on the right cheek. Cassian hit me so hard and accurately that I fell backward onto the sofa. My eardrums were buzzing, and it took me a while to hear what he was saying. "If you dare touch Lolita again, I'll send you underground to reunite with your father." I struggled to get up. Cassian was already walking towards the door with Roman. Seeing that they were about to go far away, I ignored my dizzy head and the pain in my mouth, tried my best to chase after them, and grabbed Cassian's arm. The play that needs to be performed must be completed. "Where are you going?" I bit my cut lip corner, forcing out tears. "I'm your wife." Cassian ruthlessly pushed my hand away and walked away with Roman. At that moment, I felt a little sad. If I were really Clara Bennett, I would never have married him without hesitation, and I would never have fallen in love with such a person. Thunder suddenly sounded, and the thick night was torn apart by a dazzling white line. I was awakened by the rumbling thunder. I turned over and got up from the ground, rushed out the door like mad, and ran towards the back door of the villa. In the original text, Clara Bennett was going to rush out the back door to the highway and stop Cassian Hale's car. I ran barefoot in the rain, the downpour quickly soaking through my thin pajamas. My throat felt like it was on fire, and my mouth was filled with the taste of blood. But I didn't dare stop for a moment. This sprint almost took half my life. I rarely exercised before because I was busy typing, but now I know how important exercise is. But luckily, when I rushed to the middle of the road, the Bentley was slowly approaching. The bright headlights became the only source of light around. I was shaking all over, and I couldn't tell whether it was from the cold or fear. I took 2 deep breaths and opened my arms towards the Bentley like a hero sacrificing himself. It's okay. In the end, I was just injured and hospitalized. I'm still alive. To cheer myself up, I glared at the Bentley and started yelling. Come on, hit me. As a result, the Bentley seemed to have received a signal and suddenly accelerated and rushed over. I closed my eyes tightly. What greeted me was not the excruciating pain of crushing my body, but instead a loud crash. I opened my eyes. There was a huge gap in the fence on the side of the road next to the cliff. The Bentley that was originally on the road had disappeared. What was going on? I was stunned for a moment, then quickly rushed to the gap and looked down. Below the cliff, the Bentley had crashed headfirst into the rocks at the bottom. Waves licked the scrapped car, and it could be swept into the sea at any time. I looked at the car accident scene at the bottom of the cliff, feeling a little dazed. 2 main characters in a book were in trouble, and one was the male lead. What should happen next?